Welcome to Living in the Miracle Zone, the place to be if you want to live in the flow of synchronicities and miracles in your everyday life. I'm your host, Marcy Shimoff. I'm a #1 New York Times bestselling author, a teacher in The Secret, and the creator of the worldwide program, Your Year of Miracles. And I have spent my life studying happiness and studying miracles. And in this podcast, we bring to you extraordinary miracle stories that will inspire you. And we bring you groundbreaking miracle tools that will show you how to live your most miraculous life. It is my heartfelt intention that we have a fabulous time together. So welcome to the Miracle Zone. And today I am joined by a very dear friend, the amazing Cynthia James. Cynthia, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. So happy to be with you.
Yeah, well, let me tell people a little bit about you first, and then we'll get into our juicy conversation. It's always a juicy conversation when we're together. Well, Cynthia is an inspirational leader. She is a transformational coach. She helps people have deep and lasting healing. And she's a singer also. She's a speaker. She's an award-winning author. She wrote a number of books. A couple of them are Does My Voice Matter? And another one is What Will Set You Free? And I know that Cynthia has had her own remarkable journey. I'm sure she's going to share with us how she's transformed her life from a really challenging childhood, and how really what she found in healing is the foundation of her work. She's a master in what she does. She's a master in self-care strategies and in emotional integration. And she works with leaders around the world. And I will tell you my own experience with Cynthia. I have had the great pleasure of being friends with Cynthia for years, sisters with Cynthia for, I don't know, maybe 20 years. And in fact, 3 years ago, perhaps, we formed a women's circle. There are 5 of us. We call ourselves the Fab Five. And what I know about you, Cynthia, is that you are insightful, you are profound, you are practical, you are inspiring. Every one of our meetings, Cynthia opens up for us in a prayer and intention. In every meeting, she closes for us. And in fact, at the end of our time together, I'm going to ask you to do some of that powerful, magical closing that you do. So great to get to be here in this format with you. And I really love hearing your story and how you call yourself a miraculous unfolding. And maybe you can just talk to us about why you call yourself that.
Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be with you. And I call myself a miraculous unfolding because if you look at where I came from, there's no reasonable reason for me to be who I am today. I grew up on welfare. We were in food lines. My biological father was an alcoholic. My stepfather was a wife beater and a pedophile. And there was a lot of violence and insanity in my family. And yet there was something in me that I'm going to call angels around me and universal support, because it kept telling me this was not my life, that this was not how I was supposed to be. And everybody kept saying, get your feet on the ground. You're living in, tenements and all this other stuff. But there was something in me. And I want to say that I think it had to do with an imagination that was active. Because I saw myself traveling and I saw myself singing, and I used to tell my cousins I was going to record and I was going to be on international stages, and they were like, oh no, I think she's losing her mind. But I think that ability to visualize, and I didn't even know what it was at the time, was a saving grace. And it started to be a magnet that brought people and experiences and invitations to me that took me out of my life circumstance into possibility.
And it's amazing that you just spontaneously had that, not only the vision, but also the belief in the vision, both of those. What do people do who don't have that? I mean, that's not natural for everybody. So Yeah. How do you get that?
Well, the thing is I think we all have imagination, but depending on life circumstances, it gets pushed down or squelched because people tell you don't stand up, don't be too loud, don't be too, right? But I think it's like if you can have a vision of yourself, you don't have to know how to get there. You can have a vision and you can start visualizing yourself. I mean, the power of visualization and visioning, I mean, it's documented. There's scientific information around it. So you start by just visualizing or writing out a story of how your life is, even though you haven't gotten there yet. And the universe will start to sync up with you. It just will.
And so, in these circumstances, you're visualizing.
Mm-hmm.
You're also believing in yourself. Other people are saying, you're a dreamer, get your feet on the ground. How do you keep on believing in this possibility when there's so many naysayers around you at the time?
You know what? A couple of things. I was smart. And so in school, I would get good grades. And my grandmother kept saying, listen, honey, if you can do well here, you can do well somewhere else. And she took me to places like to see tea leaf readers, and she took me to see healers, and she took me to see Black people on a stage. And I was like, wow, I can do that. If they can do that, I can do that. So I think what I would say to people is begin to explore people and places and things that align with your vision, that align with who you want to be, because they're possibility showers. I could see it. I didn't have any clue how I was going to get out of this predicament that I was in, but it felt like they could do it, I could do it. And if it was a thought in my mind, I could manifest it even though I didn't know how. But I did know that if I got good grades, that if I got educated, then that was going to open some doorways for me. And if I used my talents because I sang, it could open doorways for me. And I became a teen model when I was in high school, even though I wasn't trying to be a model, but it took me out of my circumstances. And so I guess it's like, if you can find people and places and things that are inspiring to you, explore them and see how they can feed you.
Well, that's beautiful. Explore them and see how they can feed you. I love that you've led your life this way. I know it hasn't always been a bed of roses, there have been the hard times through it. Maybe what I'd love to hear right now is, what does your life look like now, living in the miracle zone? And then maybe lead us through some of the rougher times and what you did.
Today, I'm a coach. I'm a speaker. I'm a teacher. I'm a recording artist and a composer. I'm married to a man I've been with. We're celebrating our 24th marriage year, but we've been together 29 years.
An awesome man, I have to say, not just a man, an awesome man. I mean, you got a great husband in Carl, just a good man all around, man, and a fantastic photographer and artist.
He really is. And I really believe that our relationship was a manifestation of my shift in consciousness, because relationships prior to that had not been so wonderful. But I'm a mother of two. I'm a great grandmother, which it's like, when did that happen? But it's like, I get to travel around the world. I get to take people on pilgrimages. I get to speak to different people. And we live in Colorado, in the mountains of Colorado, and on a ranch. And it's like miles and miles and miles away from where I came from. And I tell people, I'm not an exception. If this can happen for me, it can happen for anybody.
And Cynthia, I actually think that how you're living now, is it even better than what you had visualized back then?
Totally, 100%. Well,
Yeah.
because you can only visualize kind of where you are,
Yeah.
but the universe goes, oh no, how about this? How about that? Yeah. Yeah.
What about the rough spots? What
Mm.
has gotten you, maybe you could share one of the rough spots and what got you through the rough spot to get back into this flow or into this miracle zone?
Well, I'll tell you, I really believe there's no such thing as failure. I think that you have experiences and you get to take them on as a victim, or you get to look at them as an opportunity. When I was 14 years old, in the school that I went to, we were required to take swimming.
Mm.
And anybody who knows African American hair, if your hair gets wet, it blows up, right? And so we did all kinds of stuff to cover it, and so we wouldn't get wet. And on this particular day, the teacher told me to go down to the diving board and to dive in, which was not a problem for me. But when I dove in, the swimming cap came off. And I went to her and I said, I need to go home for 15 minutes. I live really close, because I can't go through school like this or they'll make fun of me. And she said, absolutely not. And I said, no, you don't understand. It won't just be making fun of me today. This will go on for a while. And she just turned her back on me and she said, this conversation is over. And so I knew I was at a choice point. If I went home, I was going to be in trouble. But if I stayed, it was going to be painful. So I went home and I fixed my hair, and they told me I couldn't come back without my mother. And so I told my mother what happened, and she said, why'd you make that choice? And I told her. So she takes me back to school, and we sit with the principal, and he says, your daughter's disobedient. And he had this whole litany of things, and I just felt so ashamed. And my mother listened, and my mother was kind of an emotional being. She cried at the drop of a hat, but she's just sitting there listening. And when he finished, she said, my daughter is an A student. My daughter is involved in this school. She's engaged. And she did what she had to do to take care of her. So you can dole out whatever punishment you want. But I don't think that she was trying to be disobedient. She was trying not to be ridiculed. So he put me on.
Oh, mom,
I
go,
know.
mom. Oh my God. That was cosmic.
It was. And so he gave me this pink slip, and I had to do after school stuff. And so she walked me to my class. And this is why I'm telling you this story. When we got to the door, she said, I don't like disobedient children, but what I need you to know is what you did here is going to affect the rest of your life. Standing up for yourself and taking care of yourself is something that you will do forever. And I'm proud of you.
Whew. Wow. That
And
is an amazing story.
it is. And it stood with me, because there's been many times in my life I've had to find my voice. I've had to stand up. I've had to push back on things that were out of integrity with my soul.
That is profound. And so, you actually wrote a book, a magnificent book about speaking your truth, about owning your voice. It's called Does My Voice Matter? A Journey of Self-Discovery, Authenticity, and Empowerment. And I think that we all have to be our own advocates, take care of ourselves, and learn how to stand up for ourselves and express ourselves. So what's one or two things that we can do so that we can be, advocates for ourselves, stand up for ourselves and own our voice, just like you did back in high school?
Well, the first thing I want to tell you is that the past does not define you. And so, if life is a roadmap, blueprint, you can change it. And so one of the things I tell people that I work with is write your feelings, write your thoughts. Journaling is a really powerful thing. I mean, it's like write those things and experiences, but then write how you want it to be, the outcomes you want, how you want it to show up. And there's something about writing it that sets in motion wonderful magic. The other thing is like, find out what lights you up. What are you passionate about? What makes you'd go there no matter whether you got paid or not, because those things are portals, they're openings to stepping into fields where you can be successful, where you can make a difference, where you can inspire people. Your passion, is within you, and those dreams that live within you are messages from the universe that want to emerge into manifestation.
Mm. And those dreams that are within you, they also shift over time too.
Yes.
What you
Yes.
dreamt when you were 20 is not necessarily maybe some of the same stuff. What are you dreaming these days, Cynthia?
You know, I'm in the seventh decade of my life. And
And
so,
I have to tell you, for those of you who are just listening to this and not seeing the beautiful Cynthia, you will not believe that. Can I say how old you are? Is that okay?
sure, sure.
She is 3/4 of a century, 75 years young, and man, you look phenomenal. So
Thank you.
yeah, tell us.
So my dream now is I want to play full out no matter where I am. I want to I want to write. I want to teach. I want to continue to take people on pilgrimages. I want to inspire people to bring their gifts to the planet now because they're needed. Because all the stuff that we're seeing that's upsetting for us, it's just energy and information. We get to be the change agents.
So what do you see are people's you're all the time working with people on living in the miracle zone, what I call living in the miracle zone,
Mhm.
which is being in that state of flow and divine grace and openness and love. And yet people are challenged to do that.
Yeah.
What do you find are some of the biggest challenges that keep us from living a more miraculous life? And what do we do to really step beyond those?
I think people feel powerless.
Hmm.
People feel helpless. People feel like they don't have a voice. That 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 if they bring their true feelings into the light, they can be punished or hurt. And so people start pulling back and they start damping down their energy. And I what I want to say is I want you to look at history. Some of the greatest people in history stood up at a time when nobody else was doing it. I mean, they stood up, whether it was Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Mother Teresa or who, I mean, Maya Angelou. They all did it. They all understood that they this was not the time to pull back their energy. This was not the time to hide. And it wasn't always great for them. And it wasn't always, they didn't always win. But they did show us that by doing that, we create change. So what I want to say to you is that your voice, your energy, your gifts, your talents are on this planet in this moment because they're necessary. Don't be afraid to use them. Don't be afraid to step up. If one door closes, another one will open. I am living proof of it.
Mm. Yeah. And you bring up in what you just said, a lot of people, they go, yeah, that's good for Gandhi. That's good for Martin Luther King. That's good for you, Cynthia. But I got too much fear here, which is the
Mm,
thing that really blocks us is that fear of whatever's going to happen. Something bad is
right.
going to happen if I'm authentic. So yeah, I can be inspired by them. But when my fear comes up tomorrow or today,
Mm.
what do I do?
That's why you have the year of miracles. That's why you have coaches. That's why you have counselors and ministers and teachers. You cannot do it alone. You cannot do it inside of yourself. You reach out to people you can lean into their consciousness and they can help you move forward.
Well, that is a fabulous answer because Cynthia, you've been that for me. You're one of the people
Oh,
that I lean into when I feel, oh, I'm not sure that I can do this. And you stand there and go, yeah, yeah, we know you can. And remind, I think the one thing that we can do the most for each other, the real friendship in life, is to remind people of the truth of who we are, the truth that we are love, the truth that we are goodness. And to me, that's like, I love getting to be with you because I look in your eyes and I see truth and goodness and love and beauty. And I know that it reminds me of that in me. And that's what we can be here for each other.
Oh, that is so true. And Marcy, I think that there's a gift in being able to see the truth in other people, because then a synergy and an energy begins to flow and everybody wins, everybody grows, everybody heals.
And I'm loving this conversation because it's easy for us to see the people's challenges. It's easy for us to see the weak spots in other people.
It is.
What do you do to be able to bring out the best in others and in yourself in terms of, okay, what do I do with all that stuff that I see of theirs that's not so great? How do I focus on the stuff that's really beautiful?
Well, first of all, everything's a mirror. So my first question is, where does that live in me? Mm-hmm. Because if I can see it in somebody else, it's here someplace. It may not be active in the moment, but if it's in me, then I don't get to be judgmental. I don't get to be wanting to point out what's wrong with them. I get to remind them that whatever is going on, whatever is challenging them can be transformed because it is energy. And sometimes for people, when you see what's going on, it's a call to prayer. Mm-hmm. Pray for their peace, pray for their harmony, pray for their success. And, so when you grow, this was a big lesson for me. When you grow, not everybody will continue to walk the path with you, but it doesn't make them wrong. It just means that you're going down different paths.
Beautiful. And so you've got to be willing to say, okay, this is, the saying that people are either here for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Right. So it may be that this season is over and it's time to go down a different path.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Cynthia, one of the great things that you do is pray us in and pray us out in our calls. And I'm going to have you do that in a minute or two. But what I'd love to hear from you is if there's anything else that's just burning in you that you want to share about how we live more in the miracle zone.
I guess I want anybody who's listening to know, really, you are a miraculous unfolding. It took a lot for you to be birthed on this planet. It took a lot for you to have the gifts and the power and the presence and the light that only you is you. You're unique and you have unique abilities. You are a once in a lifetime miraculous unfolding. So, hey, know that you're a masterpiece in the making and just step into it beyond circumstances and trust your process. You are here for a reason.
Wow. Exquisite. We are all here for a reason. And I think that anybody who's here listening to us now is actually here in this conversation for a reason. It's not an accident that you showed up to this particular conversation. So Cynthia, the way people can find you and your work is at cynthiajames.net. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you've got magnificent work on there. Anything you want to share about that?
I'm really excited. I just refreshed the website, so there's a lot of new stuff there and a lot of stuff about my community and gifts for people and inviting people to stand in their power.
Oh, fabulous. So Cynthia, there's a quote from you that I want to share, and then maybe you can pray with us together before I close. Mm-hmm. So the quote from Cynthia is, "I am not what I have done. I am what I have become." And you have certainly become a shining light and love in the world, in my life and in the world. So maybe you can pray for us before I close out.
Well, I'm happy to do that. So we take take a moment to just pause and step into that extraordinary field of infinite possibility and potentiality, a divine field. Doesn't matter what you call that divinity, but it is a field that is filled with love and harmony and peace and grace and light. And we allow that energy to bathe us in this moment. We are here in this moment as a divine appointment to remember who we've come here to be, to stand in the power and the presence of who we are, to be with like-minded people, to follow people like Marcy who are saying, this is your time. You are here because you're powerful, because you're dynamic, because you're mighty. And so we take the energy that we are living in this moment, and we look at the past, we look at the circumstances, but we bless them because they are opportunities for us to see who we are, who we've come here to be, and step into our glorious nature. And so we just move on from this place in this miracle living zone. And we say yes to life, and life says yes to us. From that place, we surrender to the all good and allow it to be, and say, and so it is.
And so it is. Oh, exquisite, Reverend Cynthia. She actually is a reverend. And thank you. That was just exquisite. In fact, this whole time with you has just been so beautiful. And I want to thank everybody for listening today, for being with us today. I hope that you're feeling inspired and uplifted and more in the miracle zone after our time together. How could you know? After our time with the beautiful Cynthia. And if you enjoyed this episode, we so appreciate your 5-star ratings and your reviews. And please share the Miracle Zone love with your friends and family. And if you're ready to live more in the Miracle Zone, you can start by taking our free 2-minute quiz to find out what your miracle superpower is. You just go to miraclequiz.com. And remember, your life of miracles is waiting for you. It is your birthright. And simply by listening to this podcast, you are taking a step forward into the Miracle Zone. Enjoy.